This video will show you how to replace the electronic cooling fans on a Ford Edge. This will be located across the front of your engine compartment. Let's get into it. Now we're going to have to drain our engine coolant. For that, we're under the hood. We can see where our coolant reservoir is. We'll carefully turn this counterclockwise to remove the cap. Once you have it dislodged, just a quick inspection will rest it on top. Now we're going to pause in the engine compartment. We're making our way under the driver's side of the engine compartment, all the way along the front where we have our subframe. If you were looking up inside this area, we can see our electronic cooling fan. We're looking just below the driver's side corner of that cooling fan. We have our coolant drain. Now, as far as this drain, you're going to be using a 19 millimeter. You'll find that the fluid makes its way out through this lower circular port. We have our collection receptacle under here, of course. Alright, at this point we can make sure that this is nice and snug. We'll clean any mess from under this corner of the radiator. Now along the driver's side we can see where our air filter housing is. We have this metal bracket. It's held in place with two 8 millimeter headed bolts. Let's remove the pair in that bracket. Slide that off of there. Just remove that mounting hardware. We'll keep all this together. For now, we're just going to set it aside. Now that we have that out of the way, we're following the air filter housing towards our mass airflow sensor. You're going to find you have a small red locking tab. Go ahead and pry that out of place. I'm just using a small pocket screwdriver. You can use an angled pick if necessary. Once you have that pulled out and away, you should be able to hold on to the locking tab located in the same area. We're pressing that in. Now once you have that dislodged, you should be able to grab onto the small locking tab directly in the center, squeeze that in, and pull it out of place. Let's start removing the upper housing from the air inlet tube leading towards the throttle body. We have an 8 millimeter headed clamp. Just go ahead and turn that counterclockwise. Now that I have that loose enough, I'm going to continue on with my two locking tabs along the inboard side, and we can slide this out of place. For these locking tabs, just pry them out of place. We'll take hold of the air filter housing and the inlet tube. We're going to carefully separate the two. Now we're lifting this up and away. You're going to find along the driver's side of the upper housing, you have three locating tabs. On the lower housing, you have an area for those three to fit into. Let's remove our air filter from the area. We'll give it a quick inspection. Set that aside. Let's take hold of the lower housing and the inlet tube and carefully lift them up and out of position. Along the bottom, there should be some rubber mounting grommets. There we go, that's starting to come up. We can see two locating tabs, and if you were looking inside where the body of the vehicle is, we can see our two rubber grommets right down here. We're paying attention to our upper radiator hose. We need to disconnect the upper radiator hose from the radiator along the top passenger side of the radiator. You're going to find that there's a small squeezable clamp. I'm using some pliers to squeeze on the ears of the clamp. While doing that, we can wiggle the hose and slide it out of position. Keep in mind there could be coolant in this area. Now, once you've removed the hose, just give it a quick inspection. We want to make sure it's not torn, worn, or damaged. It's still soft and pliable. We're going to go ahead and take this hose and we're pulling it out and away. We'll just tuck this in behind this area. So there's an electrical wiring harness that goes all the way across the front of the engine compartment. We like to make sure we have plenty of slack from this, so I'm just using a small trim tool. You can use a flat blade screwdriver. We're essentially prying it out of place. As we make our way across, we're looking for any mounting points holding this in position. This one in the middle. As we come across, we've got one going into the fan shroud over here. There we go. As we make our way all the way over towards the driver's side, we can disconnect our electronic cooling fan. This has a locking tab. It's on the side closest to the fan. I'm pressing on it with my thumb, and I'm going to pull this out of place. Just a quick wiggle here. Slides right off of there. A quick inspection for corrosion. That looks good. Now, to get a little bit more slack, we have one more mounting area right here. For this, you can either pry it out of place, or you can make your way to the locking tab. As far as the locking tab, I'm using an angled pick. I'm coming down inside this area, and I'm going to gently separate it. Continuing on with the fan removal, we're going to make our way along the top of each side of the fan. You're going to find that there's an 8mm headed mounting bolt. Go ahead and remove the bolt from each side of the fan assembly. As we move over towards the passenger side, this one's a little bit more difficult to gain access to. Let's take hold of the fan. We'll give it a wiggle. We're going to slide it out of place. Now that we have the fan assembly up and out of the engine compartment, let's start removing the control module. Now I'm looking up along the top of the fan shroud here. This is where we have the module. We're going to disconnect our electrical connector first. It has a locking tab. Just carefully lift up on that. We'll pull this out of place. A quick inspection for corrosion. After that, we have one Phillips head mounting screw to be removed. Now we can take hold of the control module, we'll gently lift it up, and we're going to start pulling it away from the fan assembly, pulling it towards where the mounting bolt port would be. A thorough inspection of this and we'll set it aside. And there it is, friend. Now it's time for the installation of our cooling fan assembly. We'll start with the control module. We have two small locating ears which will slide into the fan assembly. Once you have those slid into the proper placement, you should find that the mounting bolt port aligns as well. Now, assuming that is aligned, we're going to continue on with the mounting bolt. Go ahead and start that in by hand and we'll snug it up. Of course, it's time for our electrical connector. Line it up, press it in. Audible click, make sure it's secure. Let's get this over to the vehicle. After double checking to make sure we're completely seated on each one of our hooked areas down below, we need to make sure that the top area is properly aligned for our mounting bolts. As far as those mounting bolts, go ahead and start them in. Once you have both of them started in and we're properly seated, you can tighten them up. Now I've got both started in. Let's make sure they're tight. Obviously, same thing for the other side. Let's secure the wiring harness next. All the way over towards the passenger side, we know that we have an area that it slides through the bracket. As we continue on up along the top of the fan, we'll make sure that we secure it all the way across heading towards the driver's side. Line it up, press it in. Continuing on across. Line that up. Now there should be another tab that presses in right here. Ours is clearly broken. We'll continue on. Double check, make sure that's secured in place. Let's plug in that control module for the fan assembly. Now it's time for the upper coolant hose. We're making our way across the top of the fan assembly. You can see where the hose needs to slide in between this bracket area. Now, as we make our way over towards the passenger side, we need to align this with the radiator, but we need to squeeze our clamp, slide this in, make sure the clamp is in the proper position, and of course, make sure it's properly secure. I'm attempting to slide this off of the radiator. It does not move. Let's prepare to install our lower air filter housing. Before we bring it into position, pay attention along the lower bracket. We have 2 small rubber grommets. Apply some lubricant. After applying lubricant, if you are looking at the bottom of the lower air filter housing, we can see the 2 locating tabs that will slide into those rubber grommets. Let's line it up, press it straight down, make sure it's secured in place. I have it lined up. Let's press it in. Just an audible click from that. Quick wiggle. Let's go ahead and secure this in place as well. This is just going to slide directly into this position here. Press it on. Now we have our small bracket. As far as the inboard side, closest to the housing, it's going to go under the rubber grommet. Once I have it in place, I'm going to continue on with my 2 mounting bolts. We want to make sure we start them both in before tightening either of them. Time for the air filter. Let's get this in place. Upper air filter housing. As for the outboard side, towards the driver's side, we have 3 locating tabs. The lower housing has 3 slots for these to line up with. Once you have it pressed in, we're going to swing this down, and then we have the air inlet tube that goes from the air filter housing towards our throttle body. Once you have it completely pressed into position, tighten your 8mm headed clamp. Make sure it's nice and tight. We'll make sure that we secure our upper housing to the lower housing. We have 2 locking tabs for this. Line them up, press them in, listen for a click. Now it's time for the mass airflow sensor electrical connector. As far as this connector, the locking tab will be along the bottom. Once you have it pressed in and you hear an audible click, lock it in with the secondary locking tab. That is secure, locked in, double checked. Let's secure the wiring harness next. This just goes into the corner of the air filter housing. You can use a wire tie if that happens to be broken. Now it's time to fill the cooling system. When we fill this, we're going to use the manufacturer specified coolant. You can also use universal. We're going to fill all the way up to the maximum line here. After that, we can start the vehicle. We'll let it run and get up to normal operating temperatures. Once you hear the cooling fans turn on, you're going to want to make sure that you top off that coolant once again. Typically, it will make its way down once the thermostat opens. I'm just going to use a funnel up along the top here. We'll run the vehicle without the coolant cap in position so we do not build up pressure. Now, once you've run the vehicle, it's up to normal operating temperatures, the cooling fan's turned on, you want to make sure you turn it off. We're going back over to the coolant reservoir. Typically, you're going to find when the cooling system's hot, the coolant level will be a little higher than what it would be when it's cold. Once you're sure that you're full, we'll continue on with our cap. Turn that all the way until it bottoms out. Make sure it's secured in place so you do not have a coolant leak. Okay friend, we finished our installation. Now the next thing you want to do is start the vehicle. You're going to let it run for a while until it gets up to normal operating temperature. After that, you should hear the cooling fans turn on. Once you've heard the cooling fans turn on, go ahead and close the hood and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.